Welcome to the Ho Ho Show, rated the #1 most listened to podcast on Pluto. So join us now as we discuss news, politics, current events, and so much more. So clear the airways and strap in as we defend the Constitution. Because freedom matters.
Broadcasting live from the Cottage Studio. You can check out my website, thehohoshow.com. I'm all over the place on social media and a proud member of Weaponized Sloth Productions. So welcome to the Ho Ho Show, and as always, I am your host, Ho Ho. So welcome everybody, welcome Spreaker, welcome Twitch, YouTube, Mixer, Periscope, and Facebook. How y'all doing today? Hope you guys are doing good, really do, and I actually even remembered to turn the chat on this time. I'm actually kind of impressed. I never remember to do that. That's pretty stinking awesome. So, don't have a lot planned for the show, but it could definitely lead into some interesting conversation. We've got some people abandoning high tax states. Just goes to show you that there is still people out there with common sense. We're going to be talking about some Apple stuff. Got some Second Amendment rights in here, some Fourth Amendment rights in here, which I actually found a little interesting. And it's like, never really thought about it that way. Of course, we're going to be talking a little bit about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with her comments about the VA, which I found absolutely hilarious. And of course, we want to talk a little bit about Trump with his speech with the at the NRA. That's always good. But first, let's talk about. We might as well go ahead and start off with the whole Second Amendment thing. Or actually, should we start off with the other? Where'd it go? I think it was down here. No. Okay. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and start off with this whole gun debate thing. No, that's not supposed to be there. Yeah, we're going to talk about Pritzker, actually. We'll just start off with him. Why not? So, in keeping with Illinois tradition, with, our governors have to go out of the governor's mansion and right into the governor wing in the prison system, Pritzker is, he's on investigation. He's being investigated. Yeah, he's being investigated by the FBI, I believe, and I think even with IRS, with different things that he was doing. See, what happened was, all right, now, let me rephrase this a little bit. The funny thing is, here we have a governor that's just crying about taxes. We need more taxes. We need to raise the tax on everything. You step in or you hover around the border and you're breathing air, then we've got to tax you for that air that you're breathing. He's wanting to raise taxes. And in typical, not just, governor things that they do, but, Democrats in general, because here's a saying that's kind of common, everybody's a conservative on April 15th, tax day. You might be, a Democrat, but when it comes to taxes, you're conservative. You only want to pay the absolute bare minimum, and that's it. And Pritzker's no different. See, but what he did was a step beyond. It just, wow. It was definitely a step beyond, all right? Because what he did is around in, different buildings that was around him, homes, whatever the case may be, he had their toilets removed and deeming those properties uninhabitable because they didn't have any toilets in them. Causing his property tax to go down a lot. And just so you guys know, property tax in Illinois can get kind of outrageous. So that's what he did. So he's under federal investigation. Absolutely hilarious. And just so you guys know, because I forgot to mention it earlier, for all the articles that I use on the show, you guys can go to thehohoshow.com, go to the newsfeed tab, and you guys can check out my Flipboard which is the app that I use for everything news. I like Flipboard. It's amazing. So you can click on that. You guys can take a look at every single article that I use, follow it, read it for yourself, see what's, hit the mic, see what's going on. It's a good time. I recommend it. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we are going to jump into this whole NRA, Trump thing. All right, because there were some things that were said, and also in regards with the United Nations gun trade treaty thing that's going on. So yeah, we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break. So just a couple minutes, guys, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Ho Ho Show. All right, guys, so we're going to slide into this whole gun debate thing. So I read this article, and this came from, pop-ups. Actually comes from the Red State. And this headline, Parkland survivor Kyle, I'm going to screw up his last name, so I'll just skip that. You guys can see it, it's right there. Gives rousing speech and asks questions that Dems need to answer now. Oh, yeah. So I read over this. Now, here's the thing whenever it comes to this whole gun debate thing. This is why, especially people that are on the right, constitutional conservatives like myself, a lot of other people, gun advocates, gun supporters, NRA supporters, all that good stuff. There's a reason why we really don't like to have this conversation with Democrats, because their answer, wow, it's like changing colors outside. That's amazing. So their answer, it seems like, to anything that happens is gun control. Gun control. And of which case, whenever the first words out of your mouth is restricting my freedom, that's whenever we really don't seem to have a lot to talk about, because where do you go from that? Really, where do you go from that? There's no productive place you can go from that. Truth be told, in all honesty, there's nowhere you can go from that. So that's why we really don't like having that conversation, because every single one of these gun laws that you want to, impose, it doesn't do anything more than restrict the rights of law-abiding citizens. Restrict the rights that we have to protect ourselves. Name the shooting. What do they all have in common? Gun-free zones. You know, it's not that guns kill people and people kill people. It's that gun-free zones does nothing but create targets. You know, when you don't have good guys with guns, and we'll get into that here in a little bit, whenever you don't have that, it's a bad thing, you know? So he goes on and he asks some questions, and the questions are, you know, gun control is not only ineffective, it's extremely dangerous. You know, every time that there's a shooting by some crazy guy, we want to disarm the law-abiding citizens, you know? So these are some of the questions that he asked, you know, which is actually kind of weird because it seems like a lot of his other classmates are all like gun control, and he's like, no. That's not the way to do it. That's not the way to do it at all, you know? So he really attacks this just full on, you know, head on, just attacks it, you know? He wouldn't be the first guy in this type of a situation, you know, where there was a tragedy that happened and his only response was, we can't do that, you know, not going along with the norm of what the Democrats really wanted, you know? But there you have it. All right. Moving on. So I'm sure you guys had talked about or had heard about, you know, President Trump with his speech with the NRA. Okay. But from that, there has been a butt ton of articles, okay, writing about our withdrawal from the UN Arms Trade Treaty. Okay, President Trump announced that, even signed the executive order on the podium, you know, getting away from that, which we stepped into under President Obama, I think around 2013 is whenever we stepped into that. Okay, now here's the thing, all right? Here it is, 2019. This was signed in the UN by our UN, you know, whatever, our UN representative, you know, 2013. This was nothing. This was a treaty that we entered into that didn't have any type of congressional, you know, approval whatsoever, okay? And an article that I read in here, or at least a headline I read, was like, you know, Trump's saying, you know, don't sign it, whatever, send it to me and I'll dispose of it, I think is what he said. I'm actually looking for the article now. Didn't originally plan on bringing that one up at this particular point in time, but it's in there. So I'm looking for it. And of course, I don't see it. Let me slide up a little bit. Oh, it's probably up here. Nope. Okay, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. But here, there's a couple things you guys need to know about this thing, okay? The UN Arms Trade Treaty, which is what this was, okay? This may have had some good intentions in mind, but the bottom line was that we were relinquishing our own sovereignty to an outside body that really didn't have our own interests in mind, okay? I guess you can say their end goal was to restrict to a bare minimum of arms that could be held by the general public, only giving the access to who they consider approved agencies, you know, and that was it. So, I mean, a restriction of our Second Amendment, you know, an infringement on the Second Amendment, on our rights by an outside source. Okay, that's in all honesty, that's what the UN Arms Trade Treaty did, okay? Not a good thing, especially if you are a Second Amendment person, if you're a Second Amendment advocate, if you are, you know, a freedom person, then this is really bad, you know? So we're backing out of it, in which case, yes, I'm excited about that. You know, this is something that we should have never done in the first place. You know, he should not have signed that. You know, regardless of whether he had the president's approval to do it or not, doesn't matter because this wasn't a treaty that was passed by Congress, and of which case all treaties must be passed by Congress. They must be, you know, started by the Senate, if I'm not mistaken, and it's got to go through the process. You know, it's got to go through the process. And this was a treaty that was signed in 2013 that never went through the process, and still in 2019 has yet to go through the process. All right? So we're getting out of that, and of which case, good. You know, that's not to say that we are retracting that we're not going to do these certain things, because that's one of them things too that cracks me up whenever they were doing the with the Clean Air Initiative or whatever that thing was that we backed out of. But it's like, dude, you have, countries like China that was involved in that never once lived up to what they said they were going to do or what they were supposed to do. Here we, before that, during it, and now even after this, we're still making huge strides to live up to that. It's helping the environment. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you try to clean up the environment? We're doing this already. We don't need some type of an agreement with the UN or anything else to do this. That's just the progress of technology. When you have that heart to help the environment, that's what you do. So that's what we've been doing. So the same thing goes with this. It's not like that we're not going to help them. It's not like this, the good aspects of this we're not going to do, but we're not going to have, or not going to allow the UN to say, these are the guns you can and cannot have. That's an infringement upon my rights. That's an infringement upon the Second Amendment. They can't do that. Legally, they don't even have the authority to do that, to sign that treaty. Regardless of whether it even passes, it's a violation of the Constitution. You can't do that. You can't do that. So continuing in with this whole, Second Amendment, continuing on with this whole Trump thing, okay? I'm going to slide into, no. I'm not doing that one. Not yet. We're going to talk about another, since we're talking freedom, we're going to slide into another one. This article actually comes from Forbes. All right. Here, get off the screen. Thank you. Here's why police using chalk markers on your tires to write tickets violates the Fourth Amendment. Now, guys, I got to admit, I was kind of like, huh? How was that a violation? I mean, he's putting a mark on your tire. Now, granted, you can consider that, vandalism, if you want to. I mean, it's not a permanent mark, so I mean, that really doesn't fly, But it's like, I didn't quite get that. I definitely had to read the article on this one. I'm like, how is this, a Fourth Amendment violation? And then I had to read the Fourth Amendment because I was like, what's the Fourth Amendment? I just I didn't remember, not off the top of my head. So I got out my trusty handy dandy, pocket Constitution, and I read the Fourth Amendment. I'll do that for you now. It says, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So I'm like, okay, so how is that a violation of the Fourth Amendment? I didn't get it, So reading the article, and I'll kind of slide into this too, because it's like, no, I'll get back into this. But the article said, it was like, you're doing this for what somebody may do versus, doing something for which they have done. And I was like, okay, I get that. I can understand that. But even still at the same time, I mean, if you have a sign on there that says, like this little thing in the article, 2-hour parking from this time to this time, unless some type of a meter maid or whatever is enforcing that, then that sign is a waste of time. It's like, I'm sorry, it is, So I'm like, how else are you going to mark that unless you're using surveillance, I guess, surveillance cameras. Otherwise, you got a meter maid putting a mark on a tire and on the concrete. It's like, I don't get the issue. I mean, I really don't. I mean, granted, I don't want no stinking parking ticket, but I still don't completely see how they're tying this into the Fourth Amendment. I don't get it. If you guys do, please enlighten me, because I'm actually kind of curious about this. It's like I understand you don't like it, and they even went as far into like with this article talking about like speed traps. Speed traps are unconstitutional because you're not, and this was one of the things that they were doing on this, as far as how they were swinging it, because this isn't something that you do for public safety. This is a function of the police force as a revenue generating, thing. Parking tickets and stuff like that. That's revenue generating. I had an argument with a police officer one time about seatbelts. I'm like, a seatbelt isn't a safety issue. It's a revenue generating law. He said, no, seatbelt saves lives. I go, no, it doesn't. There is no empirical data that tells me, that you can point me to, that says that seatbelt saves lives, because there's too many variables. There's the vehicle you're driving. There's the vehicle or the wall or the object that you may run into. There's the height difference between the two. There's all kinds of factors in play here. You can't definitively tell me that seatbelt saves lives. And I told the cop, I go, look, your own law tells me beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is a revenue generating law. He goes, oh yeah, prove it. I go, I will. It's like, if you're sitting still, then you don't have to have your seatbelt. But if you're on the road driving, that's when you have to have a seatbelt, right? Yes. Okay. I said, okay. So that means it should be a moving violation. He goes, but it's not a moving violation. I go, exactly, because if it was a moving violation, once I have 3 in the same 12-month period, then I get my license suspended. How better to protect me if I'm unwilling to wear my seatbelt than to stop me from driving a car and telling me that that's illegal? But it's not. It's a non-moving violation, meaning that you can write me as many tickets, seatbelt tickets, that I allow you by not wearing my seatbelt. It's a revenue-generating law. You guys don't care about saving lives. You only care about generating revenue. And he goes, yeah, okay, I can see your point. I'm like, yeah. It's like, it's not rocket science. The same thing goes with speed traps, because they were like, this isn't something that they do to, for safety. They do it for generating revenue. Oh, Vector wanted a fist bump. That's why you generally see, speed traps and things like that at the end of the month, because they got to reach that quota. Which is actually, they're not supposed to do that, but they still have quotas. They all have quotas. Everybody knows they have quotas. I mean, come on. We all know they have quotas. All right, moving on. So I'm going to take another quick break, guys. And when I return, I want to talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and what she was talking about with the VA. Because, guys, I tell you what, this was absolutely hilarious. What she had said in regards to the VA, with having somebody sitting right next to her, somebody in the military, the expression on his face was absolutely hilarious. So, guys, just a couple minutes, and I will be right back. All right, we are back. All right, so.
Hello and good morning.
Whoops.
For today,
I totally hit the wrong button. Are you kidding me? Stop it, guys. I don't know what I clicked, but it wasn't right. So, okay. So, I was just trying to pull up all the articles right there, and then something happened, and, well, they just all decided to go all haywire. Let me open these back up again. Hate it whenever that happens. All right, so we're talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her comments about the VA. So basically what she said was, the VA's working fine. It's working as it should. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. She was just talking it up, everything else. It's just doing great. It's doing marvelous. It's doing wonderful. And, Thursday I was on Brandon's show, the Machine Radio show, and one of the comments I had made was, well, if you're looking at their doctored numbers, then yeah, it does look like it's doing good. But if you're actually looking at the facts, looking at the second set of books, well, then obviously it's a huge failure. And the look on the guy's face whenever he was talking about that, I mean, he was just like, just mean mugging her, just looking at her like she was some kind of an idiot, which she was. I mean, it's like, do you not know? And so it was ridiculous. And the backlash of this, I mean, again, this is another one that's got so many articles on it, it's not even funny. Okay. So here you've got.
People have about 10 seconds through their heads every 15 seconds.
Don't worry about that. We don't need to listen to that. So you've got this article, Fox News, top Republicans fire back at AOC over her praise of VA healthcare. Apparently, ignorance is bliss. I love that one. Backlash builds. This one's from 640 WHLO. Backlash builds. Top Republicans rips Ocasio-Cortez. Ignorant comments about VA hospitals. Another one from Fox News. Retired brigadier. You're going to play another commercial for me, aren't you? Hate commercial. Really? That's what happened last time. So I shouldn't click on that one at all. Retired brigadier general slams AOC, her characterization of the VA. Fox News. You guys get the hint. Everybody is just. Which one was that? Which one's playing? Ermi Gerd. Stop. What is playing now? Okay, never mind. Close you down. Close you down. Okay, thank you. Good grief, guys. This is what happens sometimes. Just things will start playing in the background. That's why sometimes you just can't click on these things, because they just start playing and annoy the crap out of it. But anyway, everybody is slamming her for her comments because it's like it couldn't be any more wrong. And it was actually hilarious. I mean, this was funny. This was hilarious. All right, guys. This was absolutely hilarious because Trump, he had to speak up on this one. Yeah. And in fact, Trump agreed with her. This article from the Western Journal, Trump says Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is correct in her comments about the VA. Because he did a lot to fix it. That's what he was saying. It's like, because I fixed it. I allowed, this. I allowed that. I allowed for them to be doing this. So, I mean, yeah, because of me doing my part to fix it, it is a lot better, And I was like, that's just hilarious. I mean, I had to laugh, with so many people speaking out against her. And with what she was saying, they were right to speak out against her because she was very much wrong. And then him popping up, oh, no, she's right. But it's because I fixed it. That was funny. That's Trump for you. That's definitely Trump for you. Let me see if I can bring up some of the comments on here. This was, I believe, from a tweet or whatever. Yeah, here we go. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is correct. The VA is not broken. It is doing great, but that is only because of the Trump administration. We got veterans' choice and accountability passed. President Trump deserves a lot of credit. That's just funny. Yeah, I had to laugh. There's that tweet. Let me bring it up for you guys. Yeah, see, there you go. And that's still from that WJ US News thing right there. Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah, that was funny. I mean, obviously, she just had no idea what she was talking about. So, moving on. Let's talk about Apple. Yeah, this is going to be a short show. Holy crap, there's a lot of articles, but it's all saying the same thing. All right, moving on. Now, this article, let's talk about Apple for a minute. Now, you all know how I feel about Apple. You know, I'm not a fan. I never have been a fan of Apple. I am a fan of Android. Very much a fan of Android. See, Android is open source. Basically, it's programming for, you know, those that are using it. You know, Apple is not. It's definitely corporate driven. It's not user driven. It's corporate driven. Don't believe me? This article, Apple accused of clamping down on apps competing with screen time. You see, what happened was, you know, you have an app that's using more screen time on there than what a typical, you know, an actual Apple app is using. It's not really coming out very good. Let me rephrase this. You have an app that you got, a third-party app that was still available in the, you know, the Android, or not Android, the Apple store, shop, whatever, that, you know, is on the screen a lot, and it's like, no, we want you to use only our stuff, you know, so they will now, you know, they are shutting down and closing those apps, and so they're shutting down and closing those apps because they want you to be using Apple products. It's like, holy crap, guys. You know, and there's been a couple things else that has come up on this. That's like, yeah, I'm not a fan of Apple at all. That's the moral of the story. I don't like Apple. I'm an Android guy. You know what was funny? Okay, I don't think he's watching. My brother, all right, I'm Apple, or I'm sorry, I'm Android, all about Android, you know, always have been, Android tablet. You know, I was using, you know, Linux operating system, which is, you know, a base basically for Android. Android is loosely, it's a Linux type operating thing, based off of Linux operating system. And my brother, well, let's just put it this way, you know, the rest of my family, they're all Apple people, you know. And at the school that my brother teaches at, they were like, you know, they got these Google Chromebooks, and the IT guy was showing us a lot of stuff on it. And I mean, I got to admit, that's pretty stinking cool. And he's talking it up, you know, he's talking it up. And, you know, me, I'm like, you know, I mean, Google Chrome, or the Chromebooks and whatnot, those actually kind of suck. I mean, you use a different type of Linux-based operating system, and it's so much better, way more functionality. You know, so I mean, like, I'm criticizing, and speak any of this out loud, you know, but I'm criticizing, you know, like in my own head, I'm like, you know, you could use a much better Linux operating system, and it just get way more functionality out of it. But here he is as an Apple user, you know, just talking up, you know, Chromebook, stuff like that, you know, and I turned to my mom after he left, and I'm like, should I tell him that that's basically an Android operating system? And Mom's like, don't you dare ruin that for him. I'm like, come on now, that'd just be a great thing to share with him and let him know. All right. I thought that was hilarious, you know. All right, so moving on. What else I got in here? Oh, yeah, I got a couple things, you know, reality check, you know, border agents are releasing, of course, I clicked on something, 1,400 illegal aliens per day into the U.S. And, of course, there's another article in here that's like, hey, you know, they're doing this so that this way they can, you know, get them voting rights and doing this because they're releasing them, and then they got the, you know, the census or whatever stuff else that they're doing, and like, oh, they're doing this just so they can vote. So I was looking at this, and I brought up an article a while back ago, and it was about, you know, it was about the about ICE having to limit the amount of beds they had at the ICE facilities in order to force them to process and release the illegal aliens that they had detained. And here you go. Border agents are releasing 1,400 illegal aliens per day into the U.S. Instead of deporting them back down south, they're releasing them into the U.S. I got to admit, guys, I don't like that. He is freaking out over there. What is wrong with you, dude? He's attacking his little cube. He is attacking his cube. So, and kind of going along the same lines of what I was talking about, this article from ND stop it. ND, are you kidding me? Stop it. No, get off my screen. Fine. Okay, cool. That worked. All right. So, according to NDTV, U.S. imposes visa sanctions on Pakistan for refusing to take back their deportees. I'm kind of wondering if this is what it's going to take to kind of get Mexico to be more proactive in the whole allowing their people to come over here. I'm kind of wondering, you know, I mean, how far would something like that get to imposing those type of sanctions on you know, Mexican people coming over? I kind of wonder. These are questions that I ask. Would it? You know, I don't even see it going through. I'm just be honest with you. Looking at the temperature of the whole thing, I don't see it working out. But it'd be neat to try. It'd be neat to see him try. I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I do. Getting rid of that, get rid of that. All right, what other articles that I have in here? I got a couple filler articles that I threw in there, but you know what, guys? That pretty well covers the show. Wow, 37 minutes. That's amazing, or 35, depending on what you're looking at. They're not all Mexican, though. You know, you're right, Josh. They're really not all Mexican. You know, you got people from out, you know, down further south. You got people from, you know, Central America. You got people from other countries that are using our southern border to get across because it's a lot easier to get across the southern border. So, I mean, they're definitely not all Mexicans that are coming through that border. They do know that, and you are absolutely right on that. Absolutely right on that. Yeah. All right, guys. That's really all I got for you today. Yeah. Well, you guys have yourself a wonderful evening. Good night. Sleep tight. Enjoy the rest of your day and weekend and stuff. Hopefully the weather will clear up. You know, stop raining quite so much. You can't leave yet. I didn't have much. I really didn't. It went quick. I can't help it. Have a good one, guys.